Bihari. Anand.
Over here. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Janavalabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Sata Sata Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace Abhay Chanaminda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Divine Grace Prabhupada Ki Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Asatara Sata Shri Shrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi All glory to some devotees All glory to some devotees Glory to devotees All glory to all glory Guru Sri Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Are we doing near operations? That's the most available one. And if you have it, you can share it on your... When Bhishma heard this, she exclaimed, "No, no, he never committed any offense." "You cannot ever commit offenses," said Bhakti Charu. "You are God's very dear one. How can you commit offenses?" "I am a little temperamental," said Srila Prabhupada. "I used to use words like rascal and so on. I never compromised. They used to call it a club in one hand and a Bhagavatam in the other. That is how I preach. Anyway, make arrangements for my sister. There were also visits from Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, and again Prabhupada asked forgiveness for his offenses. One time Niskinchan Krishnadas Babaji, Puri Maharaj, Asha Maharaj, Ananda Prabhu, Purushottam Brahmachari, and about 20 others came and sat next to Prabhupada's bed. He was resting when they arrived, and they joined the kirtan until he awoke. When he saw them, he asked to be raised up. Sitting in the center of his bed with his godbrothers all around, he addressed them. All over the world, there is a beautiful field to preach Krishna consciousness, he said. I didn't care whether I would be successful or not. People are willing to take. They are all taking also. If we preach together, the saying of Mahaprabhu, Prithiviti, will come true. We have everything. Spread the holy name and distribute prasadam. There is a beautiful field. In Africa, in Russia, everywhere they're accepting. When Prabhupada began asking his godbrothers to forgive him, they protested. You are the eternal leader, one of them asserted. You rule over us, guide us and chastise us. Forgive all my offenses, Prabhupada repeated. I became proud of all my opulence. No, said Puri Maharaj, you never became proud. When you started preaching, opulence and success followed you. That was the blessing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna. There cannot be any question of your being offensive. When Srila Prabhupada presented himself as Mahapatit, greatly fallen, Puri Maharaj did not accept it. You have saved millions of people around the world, he said. Therefore, there is no question of offense. But you should be called Mahapatit Pavan, the great savior of the fallen. Prabhupada's disciples regarded Prabhupada's asking for his godbrother's forgiveness as a manifestation of his humility. But they were also puzzled. Certainly Prabhupada's godbrothers were sincere in saying Prabhupada had committed no offense. Whatever he had done for Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada was also sincere in asking for forgiveness. That was the beautiful gem of his humility, to ask everyone for forgiveness. Srila Prabhupada ki. Reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Volume 1, Chapter 1. So Adi 1 is Chapter 1. Text 57. Chapter titled The Spiritual Masters. Chintamanir Jayate Somagirir Guru Me. So we should repeat this, right? Chintamanir Jayate Somagirir Guru Me. Siksha Guruscha Bhagavan Shikki Pinchamoli. Siksha Guruscha Bhagavan Shikki Pinchamoli. Yat Pada Kalpaturu Palava Shekareshu. Pada Kalpaturu Palava Shekareshu. Leela Swayam Vararasang Labate Jayashri. Please chant. Chintamanir Jayati Somagirir Guru Me. Siksha Gurusha Bhagavan Shikipincha Moli. Yatpada Kalpaturu Palava Shekareshu. Leela Sayang Vararasang Labate Jayashri. Chintamanir Jayati Somagirir Guru Me. Shiksha Guruscha Bhagavan Shikipunchamoli. Yatpada Kalpaturu Palava Shekareshu. Leela Sayang Vararasang Labate Jayashri. Chintamanir Jayati Somagirir Guru Me. Shiksha Gurucha Bhagavan Chikipincha Moli. Yatpada Kalpataru Palavas Sekareshu. La Sayang Vararasang Lapate Jayashri. Kalpataruppalavase Kareshu Leela Sayambararasang Lapate Jayashri Chintamane Jeti Soma Giri Guru Me Siksha Guruscha Bhagavan Sikipincha Moli Yatpada Kalpataru Palavasekareshu Leela Sayang Vararasam Lapate Jayashri Chintamani Jayati. All glory to Chintamani. Somagiri, Somagiri, the initiating guru. Guru, spiritual master. My Siksha Guru, instructing spiritual master. Cha, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shiki Pincha, with peacock feathers. Moli, whose head. Yat, whose. Pada, of the lotus feet. Kalpataru, like desire trees. Palava, like new leaves. Shekareshu, at the toenails. Lile Swayamvara, of conjugal pastimes. Rasam, the mellow. Labate, obtains. Jayashri, Srimati Radharani. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All glory to Chintamani and my initiating spiritual master Somagiri. All glories to my instructing spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who wears peacock feathers in his crown. Under the shade of his lotus feet, which are like desire trees, Jai Shri Radharani enjoys the transcendental mellow of an eternal consort. Please repeat. All glory to Chintamani and my initiating spiritual master, Somagiri. All glory to my instructing spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who wears peacock feathers in his crown. Under the shade of his lotus feet, which are like desire trees, Jai Shri Radharani enjoys the transcendental mellow of an eternal consort. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse is from the Krishna Karanamrita, which was written by a great Vaishnava sannyasi named Bilvamangal Thakur, who was also known as Leela Sukha. He intensely desired to enter into the eternal pastimes of the Lord, and he lived in Vrindavan for 700 years in the vicinity of Brahmakund, a still existing bathing tank in Vrindavan. The history of Bilvamangal Thakur is given in a book called Sri Vallabha Digvijay. He appeared in the 8th century of the Shaka era in the province of Dravida, and was the chief disciple of Vishnu Swami. In a list of temples and monasteries kept in Shankaracharya's monastery in Dwarka, Bilvamangal is mentioned as the founder of the Dwarkadish temple there. He entrusted the service of his deity to Hari Brahmachari, a disciple of Vallabha Bhatt. Bilvamangal Thakur actually entered into the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. He has recorded his transcendental experiences and appreciation in the book known as Krishna Karanamrita. In the beginning of that book, he has offered his obeisances to his different gurus, and it is to be noted that he has adored them all equally. The first spiritual master mentioned is Chintamani, who was one of his instructing spiritual masters, because she first showed him the spiritual path. Chintamani was a prostitute with whom Bilvamangal was intimate earlier in his life. She gave him the inspiration to begin in the path of devotional service. And because she convinced him to give up material existence to try for perfection by loving Krishna, he has first offered his respects to her. Next, he offers his respects to his initiating spiritual master, Somagiri, and then to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also his instructing spiritual master. He explicitly mentions Bhagavan, who has peacock feathers on his crown, because the Lord of all Vrindavan, Krishna, the cowherd boy, used to come to Bilvamangal to talk with him and supply him with milk. In his adoration of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he states that Jai Shri, the goddess of fortune, Srimati Radharani, takes shelter in the shade of his lotus feet to enjoy the transcendental rasa of nuptial love. The complete treatise, Krishna Karanamrita, is dedicated to the transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. It is a book to be read and understood by the most elevated devotees of Krishna. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Garanjana Shlakaya Chakshura Muratamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangham Varkayate Gurum Yatkipatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Translation again. All glory to Chintamani and my initiating spiritual master, Somagiri. All glories to my instructing spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who wears peacock feathers in his crown, under the shade of his lotus feet, which are like desire trees. Jai Shri Radharani enjoys the transcendental mellow of an eternal consort. These instructions get more and more explicit. We can understand clearly why Srila Prabhupada gave so much emphasis to careful study of Srimad Bhagavatam and why he designated Srimad Bhagavatam as the postgraduate study for those in our line. Because there's like we give opportunity for anyone to come, newcomers and old hands alike. But then according to time and circumstance, we adjust without disturbing the essence so that everyone gets some realization from whatever platform he happens to be on at the time. This book, which we distribute profusely, The Science of Self-Realization, is a perfect example of that, because it exemplifies Srila Prabhupada's teachings in every potential circumstance. When one reads it, it is perfectly suited for the preachers in the Krishna conscious movement, because it gives us appreciation of how Srila Prabhupada would speak to those who he encountered, regardless of their station in life. It didn't matter if a person was a politician, a president, or a pauper. Prabhupada could deliver the same message without any adulteration, according to time and circumstance. So one thing that struck me as I was catching up is that we have that verse. They're all repeated here because there's Tesham Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mamupayanti Te. And in the translation, Bhajate can mean, well, we know it means worship. But at the same time, Prabhupada here said, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love. Instead of worshiping me with love, he put serving me with love. So we appreciate that Srila Prabhupada in this postgraduate study is elaborating that worshiping can have some superficial meaning. When we come to the temple, sometimes we see that there's a mechanical interaction. We come, we bow down, we offer our obeisances. These things, those are our disciplines, which is meant to establish within ourselves, within our minds, within our hearts, that this is the routine stage, this is the sambandha. But the next stage, Abhideya, is the servitude stage. So Prabhupada is implying here that this verse is in the sambandha category. It's not simply worship unless you understand worship in that way that it entails complete surrender and service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the via medium of our eternal spiritual master. So this is very instructive. And Prabhupada is giving us so much opportunity to develop the proper mindset with which to execute our duties on a daily basis. Not mechanically, not begrudgingly. You know, sometimes we think, oh, it's another day, I have to get up, I have to do this, I have to do that. No. One rises and immediately glorifies his spiritual master and his Ishta Devatas. Prabhupada described that this is our routine work. Yes, it's a practice that one forces himself. He's beating the mind with brooms and shoes. So when we wake up, we say immediately, we say, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Shivada Govinda. Because this is, our day is meant simply for their service, not for anything else. And what does that service imply? Jai means victory. Conquering over the material nature. Tada rajas tamobhava, kama lobha. Especially these two things, kama and lobha. Is lust and greed. Because these things infect our existence even in our attempt to execute spiritual life. You know, one becomes, lust doesn't simply mean for some sensual gratification, it also means for some personal puja and pratishta. One lusts for position. He lusts for power. There's so many things that one lusts for. And all these lusts have to be eliminated. You know, if we mistakenly concentrate on simply the external manifestation of lust in the form of sex life, then we miss the point. We have to completely eradicate lust in every respect, in all of our thoughts, words, and deeds. Then we can be hopeful that we'll be successful. You know, that this, you know, we hear so many times the 6 Goswamis, but do we actually understand the extent to which they were able to minimize their bodily necessities? And these are our examples. We are called Rupanugas. You know, before Raganugas. First Rupanugas. First followers, you know, of the essential teachings of the Goswamis. And what did they exemplify? The most simple, basic life. Although they were in the highest social positions that one could achieve at that time, even having compromised their birth by accepting service in the Mohammedan bureaucracy. Because that was the only way you could advance in those days. You had to convert. And once you converted, you lost your caste. You were no longer considered Hindu, no longer considered Brahmins. You were actually considered outcast. That term Yavan, Malecha and Yavan, this specifically denotes those who have either rejected or been born into such circumstances. So who can imagine the mercy of Mahaprabhu, that he is the Patita Pavana, that he was able to deliver in that age and time when immense opulence was afforded to them. They had so much money, boatload of gold coins, a boatload of gold coins. And they gave it all up, completely gave it up. Who can do that? Now we see very difficult. Even in our limited situation, one is Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na sochite na kankshi. He's wondering, oh, what happened to my hat? What happened to my coat? What happened to my chadar? Where did it go? Who took my dhoti? There's so many things we're lamenting on this level. Just imagine, and everyone has experience, either now or in the past, when he's lost something valuable. The shock he feels immediately, the mind is agitated. Oh, what happened? I lost that. My wallet had $100 in it. He's completely distraught. His whole day, week, month is ruined by that one act. How could I be so careless? But we're not thinking how careless it is if we somehow lose our connection to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and a spiritual master. Those are the things which have to be carefully guarded. Now, one's material possessions may come and go. At the end of life, everything is gone. But the opportunity now to protect what we have, whatever little we have achieved in spiritual life. We understand philosophically, nehaba krama nausasti, that there's no loss, there's no diminution. It's sitting there as a permanent balance. There's no monthly fees. You go to the bank, you put your money in, every month they take out $14. And that's, but nehaba krama nausasti, nothing, it's permanent. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. If he doesn't succeed in this life, he will get exactly where he left off in his previous life. So, but one should understand that it's not an incentive. It's meant to give us the realization that why wait for another life? What is the point? Don't put off till the next life what you can do in this life, right? Isn't that a karma saying? Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. That's what the karma say. Don't put off till the next life what you can do in this life. Everything is here. We've been given every possible opportunity, situation, the favorable breezes, the captain of the ship itself, the direction, the guidance system. Everything is there without any doubt. But we have to be attentive, and we have to develop this most important service attitude. And we shouldn't, try to justify so many other auxiliary activities that are just on the periphery of devotional life. It's there. One can, if you, what is it, how is that described? If you cannot do this, do this. If you cannot do this, do this. It probably gives that. So there's so many ways to accept that. But if you can do the maximum, then especially at this period of full consciousness, that's the benefit. This Tadarajas Tamobhavo is not just a mechanical thing. We've been enlightened. Right? This term sometimes doesn't get the right definition. But by coming in contact with the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no doubt that we have become enlightened. Tamasi Ma Jyotirgama, just like today is Diwali. Everybody relates to Diwali as the battle of light over darkness, the victory of light over darkness. All right? So those who have already come to this movement have already conquered the darkness. They just simply have to remain in the light. Like Prabhupada uses that analogy sometimes that, if you're facing the light, then the darkness is behind you. There is no, in the presence of light, there is no darkness. And that definition is darkness is the absence of light. So we're in complete light all the time in the temple. There is no darkness unless we turn our backs, to the light. And then I'm in the darkness. So we have to be cautious which way we're facing. And so we should always be facing in the proper direction in relationship to serving the Lord, serving our eternal Master, our spiritual Father, who has given us this opportunity to free ourselves from the shackles of material bondage. And without any consideration, Prabhupada was lecturing Australia. I was listening, and Prabhupada said, everything, there's no charge. No one is asking me. He was telling the guests there, you just come every day, take prasadam, associate with the devotees. There's no fee. Because in those days, there were so many so-called spiritual groups. And every single one was charging something, some fee, except for the devotees. You know, if you wanted to become relieved from all your material attachments, then you surrendered everything. We all did that. When we started the Bhakti program in 55th Street, Urjeshwar Prabhu came from Los Angeles, where he had started the Bhakti program with His Holiness Dhanavir Maharaj. So it was successful. It worked. The formula was there. So he brought the formula to New York, and we established it on the 6th floor, on the first part of the 6th floor. 6th floor was Brahmacharya Ashram in the back, and then we took over the sitting room and the rooms up to the bathroom area. We put in bunk beds, which is why we know they work. We brought in sleeping bags. We brought everything that was required. And what was the idea? If you have everything, whatever you require, if you have 6 sleeping bags, Krishna will send 6 bhaktas. If you have 12, he'll send you. So we always had 12 sleeping bags. And bhaktas would come and go. So many bhaktas come and get trained up and go on Sankirtan. We had a satellite. What was our satellite, you know? Kwamarupa set up, so we went up there, we got a building, and then we renovated it, and that became our training center for Sankirtan devotees. Right? And who is the main graduate from there? His Grace Ram Roy Prabhu. Just see the effectiveness of this training program. But anyway, it was a very nice opportunity to see how Krishna consciousness works in action. You know, so this is everything in action. You hear something, you do something. You use your appreciation and you do something for Krishna. Nothing that is outside the parameters of the strict bounds of devotional life. You don't try to, we've done that all, by the way. It's been 50 years. We've tried everything. We're back to the original. This is the original. We've done records, we've done paintings, we've done stickers, we've done everything. Everything. Started off with just flowers, right? And then the Moonies copied us, and then they started doing flowers. And so then there was no difference between us. So we stopped. Because we didn't have books in those days. There was no books. And then the books came. You see, if you go back to that period, you'll see exactly how Krishna consciousness exploded. As soon as there was the ability to distribute books, the movement expanded beyond Prabhupada's expectations. He didn't expect it. Maybe he did, but at least he said that it was. He saw how it was spreading, and it was a novel idea for him. And you see when he's leaving his body, he's telling them, he's inviting everyone. The field is there. He's not saying I've done it, but he's saying it's established now. Anybody could do it, and we saw that. Anybody who wants to preach can go anywhere in the world. Prabhupada has planted all the seeds. All the seeds are there. He's done the hard work. Everyone who else comes is just simply reaping what Srila Prabhupada sowed. So anyway, we want to give everyone a chance to ask a few questions because it's such a packed up day and we're so busy. And we have so many things yet to do in order to get ready for the thousands of people. Has anyone seen the press release? And that's okay. Jagannath Prabhu has a right to be optimistic. He knows the potency of this movement. He's seen it firsthand. We have this temple will be packed. That's our expectation. And we should be prepared in every respect, which means that if you want to put this purport into practice, then you have to be ready to serve. You have to be available. It's not that somebody has to go looking for you, chasing all around. Everybody should be on the ground, on the first floor and the basement. There's only two places on Sunday, the first floor and the basement. Okay? If you're on the second floor, you're in Maya. Tell Arjuna Nanda. First floor and basement. Questions? Mother Dibyangi. Where's the mic so that everybody can hear the question? Otherwise, you have to come close and sit in front of the camera.
Haribol. Haribol. Haribol.
Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the nice class. I really like when you said about how we have already everything. We have the captain of the ship, we have actual sheep, we have all the tools. We just have to do it. And it just reminded me, I took this driving course. It was a theory, and the instructor, he said very funny thing. He said, we give you everything. We give you, the knowledge, we give you the techniques, we give you the tools, but we cannot drive a car for you. So you have to actually want it. You have to do it. And I was thinking it's very profound, kind of just like Krishna consciousness. If you don't do it, if you're not interested, who can push you, kind of like that. And Janaki has a question.
Prabhupada said you have to fly your own plane.
Hare Krishna. I was just wondering, you were talking about how sometimes we might lose something valuable and then we go into anxiety for months, or we get totally disturbed.
It doesn't have to be so close for them to hear. No, they hear.
And so my question was, when we become a devotee, our anxiety increases, actually, because now we might lose something and then we go crazy. But then when we lose something and we realize that it's Krishna's property, then we think, I haven't taken care of Krishna's things. And another comment is, you mentioned, I think the Goswamis, how they had boatloads of money, and they gave it all up. But then Prabhupada also, in one instance, I think there was some, I don't know who it was, but somebody was like, I don't need any money, nothing, I don't renounce. And Prabhupada was like, give me all your money. I will build temples. I will use it for Krishna service. So my question is, what is actually the mood of a devotee, that anxiety that we're taking care of his property and using whatever there is, but at the same time, being renounced?
Well, I mean, that's Yukta Vairagya is the application, understanding and application that everything belongs to Krishna. And therefore everything should be used in Krishna's service. So if I do get something that can be used in Krishna's service, I don't falsely renounce it. I utilize it. So that what I was getting to with the Bhakti program analogy is that when people would come and surrender, we would immediately take all of their possessions.
Yeah, that's what you...
Every single thing. There was nothing that they could go back to. So, I mean, you could say, some people might be a little bit uncomfortable with that. But what was the loss for them? I mean, we had a whole basement on Henry Street filled with, in those days, musical instruments and amplifiers. Because everybody was a musician in the 70s. And everybody was in a band. And we had expensive. This was not cheap stuff. A lot of the stuff was quite high end. And we would take it to the flea market and we would sell it. And we would take the Lakshmi back and give it to Radha Govinda. And Radha Govinda would bless those souls for giving, whether they, just like when we're taking money for a book, whether they're giving it, favorably or unfavorably, they're still getting the exact same benefit. And so, we had so many things. And of course, some people were a little bit, if they didn't stay long, And they might have been quite upset. But the longer you stayed, the more you realized that it wasn't really anything. It was just, a matter of fact, my realization when I joined was similar. I had, what I gave up, yes, it had material value. But what was more important was the realization I had in that giving it up is that all of these things form the attachments that keep you in the material world. And at the time of death, they're like anchors. Like if anyone has ever read that book, Gulliver's Travels, and they tie him down, and there's just all these Lilliputians, but he is such a big person, but he's completely secured, he can't move. And these are the things that we place value on, they're just sentimental. My whatever it is, that I found in a Cracker Jack box when I was 6 years old, and you still have it when you're 23? I mean, really? So it's just all sentimental attachment, but it's an attachment. And it's tangible to you. You think, if I lose this, I'll be distraught. Mataji has a question. Oh, you have a question. Okay, so you're here.
While I'm giving her the mic, I'll just make it.
Okay.
So if, I get really disturbed if I lose something, because most of the time, most of the things I have are just related to service. And so what about that?
Well, this is the key, is that we try to, what did Prabhupada give that definition of intelligence in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 4th and 5th verse? He said, intelligence means to understand things in their proper perspective. So perspective for a devotee is very important. He has to know, he has to see, okay, so in the big picture, what does this mean? And how will it affect my service? And is it something I need to spend, X amount of time on, no amount of time on, and, so much time that it's going to disturb me for, this. No, so perspective, very important to have that perspective. And then you can see, yes, what was that story? I've told it before, that the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. Everyone's heard these two words, but what is the difference? A problem is something that will kill you. Okay? An inconvenience is something that, okay, I'm disturbed, but it's not going to last. It's temporary, like that. But that was told by a person who was a Holocaust survivor to someone who was whining about not getting a hot meal at night because there was no food left at the ski lodge where they both worked. The old man was the accountant, and students go, and what do? They go to a ski lodge in their breaks, and they get free accommodation and free food, and free ski pass, whatever they call it, lift passes, right? So you get all this benefit. But he is thinking, I missed this meal and I'm so unhappy. And so that man gave him the definition, is that you don't know the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. And so, of course, this is for all of us as well. We should learn these two things. And Chanakya Pandit says it very clearly, that debt, disease, fire, and flood, these things will kill you. Debt, disease, fire, and flood. And other things are kind of like, that they come and go. If I can replace a coat, but I can't replace my life. And and my life is not my life, technically. Sanatana Goswami, he was so distraught, he wanted to commit suicide under the Rath cart because he felt that he was useless, that his body was good for nothing. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped him and said, this is not your body, this is my body. You are supposed to be serving me. So how are you making this decision? And so I think Mataji has a question, and then Mother Kaylee has a question.
Hare Krishna. It's not a question, but just a comment or addition, I guess, to what you were saying about kind of the Bhakti program and how everything was taken away. So I've been reading Hladini Devidasi's book, and it just kind of reminded me, so in the book she says, she had just gotten married and they're actually on their way moving to the temple, and they have this van, packed full of all their wedding gifts and, their bed frame, everything. And all of a sudden the doors fly open and everything falls out and is damaged. And they kind of took that as a sign, well, this is Krishna's mercy, like, you know, I guess this is it. We're not going back after that. So anyways, it just reminded me of that, how
Yes.
Krishna knows.
You can either give it up voluntarily, or Krishna will take it from you. If not now, certainly at the time of death. So there's no point in, you know, people who are intelligent, they realize that. So in India especially, the tendency is to give as much away as possible. You know, that if you're holding it at the time of death, it's like you lost, basically. You know, in America or in other developed countries, people are accumulating. It's like he wins who dies with the most. That's what they're thinking. You know, but in a civilized country, he realizes, no, as much as possible you give away because you can't take it with you. So you give it away. You do something valuable with it. You help others. You build a temple. You know, even that's not the highest. Highest, of course, is to give it to Krishna. Prabhupada said, give me the money. Like that. So Mother Kaylee, yes.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you
It
for
works.
class. I actually had a lot more questions after this, but I'll just ask the one on Natabar's comment about anxiety in service. So we hear that devotional service should be satisfying to the devotee, one who is performing. So it feels that if we are experiencing things like anxiety or distress, it might be because we are not satisfied in our service. So how can you give some practical advice to how we can be satisfied in our service? Like, what is the answer to that?
But satisfied in what aspect again?
In our service.
In our service.
'Cause, yeah.
It's a good question. But one thing is to, Prabhupada said in that, well, not Prabhupada didn't say, but he exemplified in the Lilamrita that humility is the magic, all-inclusive trait. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that Trinadapi Srinechana. It's not there just to falsely ingratiate yourself, you know, or to try to make a false display of this humility. But real humility means that I'm ready to do whatever is required, you know, to serve the spiritual master under all circumstances, that his order is my life and soul. I have no other consideration. That's humility. It's not, humility is not, even the Karma say, humility doesn't mean thinking less of oneself, but thinking of oneself less. You know, it says that we're not the center of the universe. And when I make the spiritual master and Krishna the center of the universe, then everything is focused in that way. And it works in every aspect of our actions. And it brings complete satisfaction. This is the, to those who are constantly devoted and serve me with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So this is Krishna giving us intelligence. When you demonstrate humility, not just speak about it or make a show of it, but actually do it. And how do we do it? Yes, by doing whatever is needed. There's a big temple. Look at all the things that are needed. And sometimes we see that areas are neglected. And they don't have to be. There's no rule that says if the temple commander didn't tell someone to do this, that it can't be done. That if someone sees that this area is dirty, he knows where the mops are. The mops are downstairs, outside the kitchen. The brooms are downstairs. Everything is there. All the tools are there. The only thing that's missing is someone's determination or initiative. You don't need anybody to tell you. If something's dirty, go ahead, clean it. You get the credit.
Okay. So it seems like a balance between the proper consciousness while performing service, and then also kind of an understanding of how much we can take, because some devotees someone might overdo it and then get burned out like that. So a balance between these.
The definition of over-endeavor is not well understood. Atihara prayasacha vajapanigamagala. So we have to try to appreciate that that over-endeavor for the wrong things, for the wrong reason, for the wrong outcome. So this is, you know, not desirable. There's no real such thing as over. If someone looked at Prabhupada's life, they would say he over-endeavored. He was an old man. What did he do? He went above and beyond. He did something that no one else could do. Some say he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to leave Vrindavan. He didn't have to struggle for years to establish ISKCON. Some would say that's over-endeavor, but it's not, because he was endeavoring for the right purpose, with the right motive, and with the right desire. So Krishna reciprocated. So this is how we have to approach our service. If you have no faith, if you don't think that Krishna is going to give you what you need, then you have to practice your relationship with the spiritual master, because that is how we learn to get to that stage of full surrender. I don't know what Krishna wants. You know, I can speculate or I can imagine, but this is highly offensive. Even to try to imagine what the spiritual master wants is offensive. So therefore, we have so many instructions, you know, including like that. We chant these 10 offenses against the holy name. Do not have complete faith. So how is it that we're not endeavoring? If we're here and we're not endeavoring to develop this faith, then we have to really critically look at ourselves and say, what can I do more to enhance my surrender? You know,
Yeah.
it's a critical thing. We're here, and everyone's here to help each other. You know, it's this why we come together when we have this the opportunity to establish relationships. This is gold. You can't get this anywhere else. You don't get these. I mean, yeah, you know, sometimes you see pictures of these old men. They say we've known each other, you know, since we were 6 years old. But what is the value of that relationship? That you simply relate to something that happened 50 years ago, 60 years ago? It's useless. It's actually pathetic. You know, greatly unfortunate. But devotees, they remember how we were in the Sankirtan van and we were traveling here and there, distributing Prabhupada's books, and we had so many great experiences. And we ended up in the jail here, we ended up here, we ended up there. You know, this is fighting for Lord Chaitanya. These are ecstatic. This is nectar. And you remember these times. And what does you remember? You remember that you were having such a great time serving Krishna. And at the time of death, Krishna will remember how you endeavored and how you sacrificed. Krishna will remember. He doesn't forget. So we have nothing to fear. Nehabikrama nasosti. Nothing to fear. But you have to be willing, right? Prabhupada said, Sarvatmana, in that lecture in Mayapur. Sarvatmana means full surrender with all your heart, no reservation. That means you can't hold back. To the extent you hold back, then, yayatama prapadyante. Krishna is clear. He's giving us every instruction, you know, that everyone will get what they deserve. That's just, he can't say it any clearer. But somehow or other, you know, our minds will try to shade these realizations, you know, with some time and circumstance situation. And that we have to avoid. We have to always just recalibrate. You know, just like you go on your GPS, you know, and you start to go a little bit ahead and a little bit ahead, and all of a sudden you're no longer, what happened to my path? You have to hit the button that says recenter. And when you recenter, it puts you right back where you're supposed to be. And then you see, there's the path. So don't get lost. You know, stay in the association of devotees. Stay fixed up in your service. Do more service than you think you can. This is the key. Do more than you think you can. Because that will lead to a greater level of appreciation and realization. If you're just trying to do the minimum, Prabhupada said, then you'll get the minimum. That Yeyatamam, he exemplified about that person who was in Vrindavan. He gave the example, the man was retired. He had so much money. He said, he told his family, he said, I want to retire now to Vrindavan. You take all the crores and lakhs of rupees that I've accumulated, but you send to me 200 rupees a month. You know, he wants to leave peacefully. He's trying to satisfy the family members with all this money. But he's going to Vrindavan to do what? He's going to have 200 rupees to serve Krishna? This is not. So Prabhupada said specifically, he said, so yes, if you are for me 200 rupees, I am for you 200 rupees. That's reciprocation. You know, so you have to give more to Krishna, and then he will give more to you. It's not rocket science. It's a devotional science. The science of bhakti yoga. And that's the science. That pure devotional service relieves one from all material distress. First chapter. Well, second chapter. Characteristics of pure devotional service. But that's it. Pure devotional service relieves one from all material distress. So we're saying here, take this. Become free. And give it to others. And that's how this Krishna conscious movement works. Give it to others. To give is better than to receive, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
So aren't we happiest when we're preaching to somebody? Isn't that? We feel that we feel completely fulfilled. Because we know that this is what we're meant to do. And so you feel right. And someone says sometimes, yeah, I feel right about this. I feel good about this. Yeah, so when we're preaching Krishna consciousness to someone, we feel right. This is what I'm supposed to do. Nimitta matram bhava savyasacham. That is what this instrument is supposed to do. To serve Krishna, to please Krishna. And it's getting late. So we have to go and take prasadam, and then we have to endeavor for Krishna. Doesn't have to be over endeavor, but you will get more. The more you give, the more you'll get. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Sri Radha Govindadev ki, Sri Kartik Vrat Damada Astakam ki. Ooh.